Now, another thing that's really helpful, and in my opinion, one of the main reasons that we use a lot of computer programs is automation, right? We want these programs to make our lives a little bit easier, to take some of that heavy lifting away from us. So that way we have more time to go out and do things that only we can do, things that are maybe a little bit more important. And one of the things that's really hard to keep up with in QuickBooks is keeping up with overdue customers and sending out reminders, right? It's always a bit of a hassle to do that by yourself and to have to go in here to QuickBooks. We're going to go over to sales. We're going to go over to customers. We're going to, you know, let's see, just look at our overdue customers, select them all, click batch actions. We're going to send out a reminder right here. So send out an email. There's a whole bunch of steps to that, and not only are there a lot of steps, but it's easy to forget to do it. It's really important. We got to do it. We got to remind people that they're overdue, but it's a hassle to do it ourselves. So there are a couple of things that QBO has to make our lives a little bit easier on this. The first is that QBO can automatically assess late fees for overdue customers. So all these 10 overdue customers right in here, maybe we've got a company policy where they get charged 5% of their open balance. If I'm going to do that manually, I got to go over here to new, I got to click invoice, and I got to fill those out one by one. It's a huge hassle. It takes a lot of time to do it. So that's why we have a feature that automatically does it for you. I'm going to go over to here to the gear icon and then choose account and settings. Now this is going to be under the sales settings. And there are actually two different ways that you can set up these late fees. Now I'm going to go down here. Here is late fees. Now it's important to note that this is only available if you use QuickBooks Online Plus or Advanced. So if you're using Online Essentials or Simple Start, you're not going to see this option. But it might be reason enough to upgrade, to be honest. Because this, as soon as I turn it on, and I hate that little pop-up there. It always comes up every time I put my cursor right there. So these fees, these finance charges, basically what they are either going to be flat fees or as a percentage of the remaining balance. Flat fees are pretty easy to set up. All you have to do is put in the amount of the flat fee. It'll be once per invoice, once per month, once per day. So if you assess this, every month they're overdue, every day, every invoice, they got you covered. Grace period. So do we want to give them a couple of days after the due date is due to pay it? You can do that. That's what this is for. We've also got the item that QuickBooks uses on the invoice. And this is actually really important to point out. The way that QuickBooks assesses these late fees is it doesn't create a new invoice. It actually puts this late fee on the original invoice. So whatever thing it's doing it for, it's going to put it directly on that invoice for it. And what appears there is a line that says late fee. So your customer, whenever they look at their version of the invoice, they'll see that too. Now you've also got apply sales tax. So is this taxable? Probably not. And one thing to point out here is that this percentage of remaining balance, and also a couple of the options that we have on here. In some states they have rules that basically dictate that you can't assess late fees on other late fees. You can't create finance charges for other finance charges. So please check out your own state's regulations on these. It is important for you to, because technically there are things that you can do in this window that might cause you to violate the law. So you want to be careful about how you fill it out. You don't want to assess finance charges on other finance charges. And one of the ways that you can avoid doing that is for these finance charges to be once per invoice. If it's once per invoice, then it's not going to assess it on other finance charges. And also if it's a flat fee, it's not going to either, because flat fee is always going to be just $50 that for that day or for that month or whatever. So it's not going to take anything else into account. But if you choose this outside of the remaining balance, and then you choose like per month or per day, you run the risk of creating late fees based on other late fees, because it'll do it for the remaining balance. And those open late fees they haven't paid yet, that's part of the remaining balance. So you do want to be careful about that. It's not going to do it with once per invoice, but it will for once per month or per day, because it'll essentially create like compounding finance charges. So you be very careful about that. But here we have, as a percentage of the remaining balance, you put in the percentage right there. You can also, in addition to that, apply an upfront one-time flat fee. And then, of course, we've also got the grace period section, and then this down here. So this is a great time saver. It will automatically assess those for you, take a lot of the work off of your plate for that. Now,